Joseph Parker is faster than Joe Joyce. He's got quicker hands, possibly quicker feet, although Joyce's feet are pretty quick as well. He's got better balance than Joyce. He's got better coordination. He's more explosive, better defense. He punches more correctly. He's got a decent chin as well. And he's got more professional experience. He's been the distance numerous times and he's fought at a much higher level in the pros. Joseph Parker is a former WBO heavyweight champion. So you'd think on paper that Parker has all the attributes, all the skills, and all the experience necessary to outbox Joe Joyce over 12 rounds. But you may have said that going into the Dylan White fight as well. But he ended up losing that fight against somebody who he was seemingly a lot more talented than. Joseph Parker throughout his career has seemed to suffer from a lack of tenacity, particularly when he's in there against somebody formidable. When he's fighting lesser opposition, there's a lot more tenacity on display. But when he's fighting somebody who's dangerous, Joseph Parker seems a little timid. He doesn't seem to take the fight by the scruff of the neck when he needs to, and the Dylan White fight would be a good example of that. Also, somebody in my Element group pointed out that whenever Parker has fought big men, guys who are 6'5 plus, he has often struggled, including against less than stellar opposition. So if we have a look at his record here, a few examples might be, let's say, where are we at? Huey Fury. Huey Fury, 6'6", moves a lot. And that ended up being a decision for Joseph Parker, but he never came close to hurting Fury or stopping him, although Fury has proven himself to be tough over the years. More alarming would be the Razvan Kajanu fight, which was the fight before Huey Fury back in 2017. Kajanu really is a poor heavyweight, has been knocked out early on numerous occasions, and he was a former sparring partner of Joseph Parker. He went in there, and I don't want to say the fight was close or anything like that, but he definitely roughed Parker up in there. He was pressing the action, and Parker kind of struggled. He certainly didn't look impressive against Kajanu, a guy who is of similar dimensions to Joe Joyce. And that was actually a defense of his WBO World Heavyweight title. Then, of course, Anthony Joshua, another big guy. And, of course, you do have to blame the referee, referee Giuseppe. God, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his surname. But he refused to allow the fighters to fight up close. But there were very few occasions where either man tried to fight up close, to be fair. Joseph Parker was mostly on the outside, moving around, popping a jab. And AJ was pretty much cautiously stalking behind his jab. So neither guy really tried to engage on the inside. But when they did, the referee bizarrely would always break them up. But either way, Parker didn't impress in that fight. And since then, he fought Junior Farr, another fighter of similar dimensions to Joe Joyce. That was only last year. And again, he did not impress. So perhaps there's a pattern here of Joseph Parker struggling against very big heavyweights. And you combine that with his lack of tenacity against the top tier fighters, it doesn't look particularly promising going in there against Joe Joyce. Also, Parker's a guy who seems to take parts of fights off or parts of rounds off. He seems to coast in fights. We saw that against Andy Ruiz. We saw that against Carlos Takam. We've seen that on numerous occasions. Now, Parker is an explosive fighter. He's not a volume guy. And often with explosive fighters, they don't have the highest work rate. And we've seen that with Parker time and time again. But if you're fighting a guy like Joe Joyce, that can be a problem because Joyce does have a high work rate. So when you're trying to rest in between those explosive bursts, this guy's on you and he's not letting you rest. You see? So again, you look at the attributes of Parker, you look at the experience, you look at the skills, you think he should be able to outbox Joyce. But then there are these holes in his game that I've just pointed out. But by that same token, and by the way, you can watch the Kajanu fight here. It is on YouTube, not a particularly good copy. You can watch it. And you can also watch Parker versus Junior Farr from last year. That is a good copy. Again, didn't look impressive in either fight. But then again, Joe Joyce didn't look particularly impressive against Bryant Jennings, a smaller heavyweight, just like Joseph Parker. I think there's about an inch difference in height between Parker and Jennings. Similar dimensions, although Jennings got the much longer arms. Jennings gave Joe Joyce all he could handle. In fact, many people feel as though Jennings was hard done by on the scorecards. They actually believe that he should have got the decision. He hurt Joe Joyce to the body, so surely Parker will be looking to target Joyce's body. Joyce has proven himself so far to have a very solid chin, but his body's been vulnerable. So will Parker target that? And again, you look at this fight against a small mobile heavyweight and you think, Parker can beat Joe Joyce. Even if you look at, let me not even talk about when Joe Joyce fought Usyk in the amateurs, because Usyk's another level in terms of skill compared to Joseph Parker, and he's a southpaw. But let's just stick to the Bryant Jennings fight. So yeah, you look at that and you think, surely Parker, who is a younger, fresher fighter than Jennings was when he went in against Joyce. I think this was Jennings' last ever fight, or one of his last ever fights. He was certainly on the brink of retirement. You think if Jennings can do this good, surely Parker can go one better and actually win on the judges' scorecards. It's an intriguing fight. I think we also have to factor in the home advantage for Joe Joyce because, of course, he's the British fighter. And not only that, but he is fighting on his home network, on BT. Parker is signed to Sky, Boxer, Ben Shalom, etc. So if it is close, potentially controversial, they're probably going to give Joe Joyce the benefit of the doubt, I would imagine. So, intriguing fight, lots of things to think about. Joseph Parker takes time off in between rounds. Will Joe Joyce punish him for that and force the action, tire him out, beat him up in those moments? Or with the addition of Andy Lee, because we have seen improvement in Joseph Parker between the first and the second Derek Chisora fights. Definitely saw improvement. Andy Lee, I saw an interview with him, and he said that he's been addressing some of these issues in Parker that I've spoken about with regards to him taking time off in rounds. So they're trying to make him more active and consistent and maintain his concentration. And also with regards to his tenacity. So if Andy Lee can address these things, then I would lean towards a Joseph Parker victory on points. But I can't guarantee that he will be able to address those things. Yeah, he beat Derek Chisora and showed improvement in the second fight. But Joe Joyce is no Derek Chisora. Joe Joyce is a bigger man. He's a guy who can get close to you a lot more quickly because of those quick feet and because he's big himself, 6'6", he's bigger than Parker. He can stick that jab in your face, you know? So, I don't know. I think that if Parker didn't have Andy Lee in his corner and he had the same training setup with Kevin Barry and everybody else, I'd be picking Joe Joyce in this fight. The only thing that's making me think maybe Parker is the addition of Andy Lee, if Andy Lee can address those holes in Parker's game. So I'm not really sure. If I had to put money on it, if I was forced to make a prediction, I'd probably still lean towards Joyce because of the home advantage, because of the fact that it's on BT. So if it's a close fight, if it's a split decision, anything like that, they'll probably give it to Joyce. But yeah, I don't really say that with too much confidence because I do think this is a really good, evenly matched contest. And that's what we want to see. I like watching fights where I'm not sure who's going to win, where I'm not 100% certain. Because that leaves intrigue. That leaves an air of mystery. There's anticipation so we can find out exactly what's going to happen and who is the better fighter. So that's my take on it. Joe Joyce versus Joseph Parker. I think it's going to be very, very intriguing. I'm expecting Parker to have some early success because Joe Joyce takes a bit of time to get going. We know that he's slow, but that engine of his takes a bit of time to get warmed up and revved up and when he gets in this rhythm. One thing which Joyce could use here, which I've spoken about briefly, but I'll expand it a little bit, is his jab. Now, trying to use his jab in the same way that he did against Daniel Dubois may not work because he's in against a more mobile target, a faster guy. Whereas, Daniel Dubois was more stationary. He was always there for Joyce's jab to hit. But moving forward, stalking Joseph Parker, a jab might be a good idea. I remember when Vernon Forrest fought Shane Mosley. Mosley was considered pound for pound number one at the time. He was an athletic phenomenon. He was much faster than Vernon Forrest, faster hands, faster feet. But Vernon Forrest was a good boxer. He had the height and reach on Mosley, and he just used his jab to stabilize Mosley and take all that athleticism and explosiveness away. Just nullify all that and not engage him in the kind of fight that Mosley wanted. And maybe Joyce, not that he's any Vernon Forrest, but maybe he can employ similar tactics of walking him down behind the jab. And whenever Parker wants to get a shot off, bang, hit him in the face with a big jab. And Joyce has quite an interesting defensive move, if you notice. Whenever he throws a jab, or oftentimes when he throws a jab, he'll kind of lean away. He did this a lot in the Dubois fight. He'll lean back and away, and he'll turn his left shoulder towards his opponent in anticipation of a right-hand counter coming over the top. So it's a pretty good defensive move. And again, if he uses his jab in conjunction with that defensive move against Parker, it could prove effective. Because as the old adage goes, timing beats speed. And sometimes a well-timed jab can nullify a fighter who's much faster than you, particularly if they're shorter than you and they got shorter arms. So yeah, an intriguing fight. Can't wait to see it. And may the best man win. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. Who are you picking? I know some people are going with Parker big. Other people are going with Joyce big. I think it's going to be close. I think it could even be a split decision. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Let me know what you think in the comments.
If you're tired of the biased narratives and mass censorship on mainstream platforms, and you want to be part of a community of critical thinkers who love free speech just as much as you do, then come and join me on Patreon and access my weekly no-holds-barred, censorship-free podcast where we lift the lid on a wide variety of controversial topics. It's not mainstream friendly, it's not politically correct, but that's the whole point. We dare to stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. Just head on over to my Patreon page and select the tier called Hatman Hot Topics. You'll gain access to a minimum of 2 hours of exclusive content every single week, including podcasts, videos, interviews, live stream Q&As, as well as my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. Not to mention a vast back catalog of hundreds of hours of previous episodes. You can listen via the Patreon app with the option to download in high-quality MP3. We've also got an Element group where you can come and chat and hang out with myself and other members. Unlike Discord, it has full end-to-end encryption, it's decentralized, and it's 100% censorship-free. You can also send voice notes as well as much larger audio and video files than you can on Discord. So come and sign up on Patreon. There's no contract, there's no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. So I'll see you over there. I'm out.